started thinking like the colonists to know what drew our lead. Started dropping it. The problem is we started thinking like the colonists to know what drew our lead. Started dropping.
7 different groups which are called subculture groups, and Europeans call them tribes, have the same linkage. They come from the same ancestor. You could link them actually, just like I tried to show in the article about ancient Ngana. If you could see in ancient Ngana, all the so-called tribes, most of them can be traced back to the connection between the Moors and the Hausas. To be sincere with you, the Moors identify themselves first of all as Bantu Ethiopians, and secondly, the Moors are dispersed group of Azanians. They are found in Ethiopia, if you want it that way. They are found in Ethiopia. They are also found in Nubia. They are also found in Ngana today. Some of them may even be found as far south as Ngangula province. But the Moors, if you study their history very closely, they are mentioned also in the biblical narrative. They are actually in the biblical narrative referred to as Moabites. They were the inhabitants of Canaan. Moors actually associate themselves with up until today. Its history goes to the pre-dynastic era. That means before the ancient kings of Ethiopia came into being, that deity existed earlier. So it can be used as the foundation of that culture. So in historical terms, we are dealing with something that goes as far back as 20,000 years, if you want it that way. But of course, the existence of Manfor, as I said, it has no genuine historical connotation, because something that is eternal is timeless. Heru. Heru is a Moor word, as I said before in my writings, which means Yenu. In Egyptian hieroglyphics or in Ethiopian hieroglyphics, they design Heru with one hand. One hand means, as in Moor, the Moor used the word directly. Moor means Yenu, which means one hand. You see, so hand is for creativity. So the hand that created itself and created everyone else. So of course it is linked with divinity, and as every culture has, of course, eternal, or it has divine sources. So it is not generally religious as you think it, but it is cultural in the sense that, of course, the Azanian culture system, later on Europeans would like to frame it mainly in religious terms as Christianity, Hindu and things like that, but that's not the case. In more languages, they call it Bunkpal. Bunkpal means the oldest river. Do you understand? So, if it is supposed to be the oldest river in Azania, and you could see the Azanian culture has a divine source, by placing, for example, the matriarchal goddess, Apet, on top of the moon, the mountain of the moon, you could see the orientation of the Azanian culture, the objective of the Azanian culture. Where is the orientation? Divinity. Divinity is eternal. So in ancient times, people believe that divinity is placed into the sky, the provinces of the celestial provinces. I'll be able to explain you why the culture institutions of Azania were based along the Nile region, because Nile River is the main culture gateway of the whole of Azania, and that's why you see most European intellectuals, they still consider that area to be where the Azanian concept was based, or most of the Azanians were actually living. That's not the case. It's just because the Nile River was the main culture gateway where our ancestors used for our culture processes, and as a result, all the culture institutions were based in those regions. The culture center itself is Thebes. There are European scholars who claim the name Thebes comes from Greece. That's complete nonsense. First of all, the name Thebes, or those who founded Thebes, were not actually Greeks. They were from Azania, who were taken to go and found Thebes, the Greek Thebes. You see, so the idea that the name Thebes comes from Greece is completely erroneous. The same with Ethiopia. As some European scholars want us to believe, they want us to believe that Ethiopia is a name that the Greeks gave us, which is complete nonsense. The first time the Europeans heard, or the Greeks heard about the name Ethiopia, they heard it from Homer. And we have recorded documentations that Homer himself has connections with Ethiopia. Manfor means eternal life. That was the capital city of the ancient Ethiopian kingdom. And Manfor was actually both cultural and economic, in the sense that Thebes was the main culture center. But Manfor had economic and cultural aspect as well, because the Apis bull, the Apis bull, the black Apis bull I just mentioned, with the Hausa city-states, which I mentioned before, was also the deity of that city. You see? So in that context, you can see that, as I mentioned, things are generally interlinked.